Ever wonder how your brain actually learns stuff? Like how you go from "I have no idea" to "Oh, I get it." Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're breaking down the fascinating science of how we all learn.
So let me ask you something right off the bat. Just take a second and think. What's the most memorable thing you've ever learned? Seriously. It could be anything. Riding a bike, nailing a tough math problem, playing a song on the guitar. Got it? Okay, just hold that memory for a minute.
That memory you're holding on to right now, that experience, that's our perfect starting point. It's not just some random thought, right? It's your own personal snapshot of the learning process in action. And you know that feeling when it all just clicks? That aha moment? Well, that's it. That is exactly what the psychology of learning is all about. It's the science behind that amazing feeling of finally getting it.
Okay, so before we go any further, let's get our basics down. We're going to quickly run through 3 core ideas you really need to know. Think of it like learning the key vocabulary for the topic.
First up, what even is learning? Well, at its heart, it's just the process of getting something new through experience. And that something can be, knowledge, a skill, a new habit, anything. The important part is that you can hang on to it and use it later. It really just boils down to being able to do something you couldn't do before.
Okay, so that's learning. But then there's instruction, and this is different. This isn't just stumbling upon knowledge. Instruction is the planned, organized way of helping someone learn. It's the teaching, the guiding, the showing. It's the intentional part of the whole deal.
And all of this brings us to the main event, educational psychology. This is the awesome field that basically builds a bridge, right? It connects the hard science of how our brains tick with the actual practical art of teaching. And the whole point? To make learning better for absolutely everyone involved.
Now, you'll find that people look at this field in a few different ways. For some, like Stephen, it's all about what happens in school, studying how kids grow and learn. For others, like Judd, it's bigger. It's the science of how we change as people through learning. And then you've got folks like Peel who just say, hey, it's the science of education, plain and simple. They're all just different angles on this fascinating topic. So, how did we get to these ideas? Let's do a quick time travel, okay? A little trip through the history books to see how our understanding of learning has completely changed over the years.
Way back in the early 1900s, it was all about behaviorism. The idea was simple. We learn by doing and we're motivated by rewards and punishments. Super external. But of course, that wasn't the full picture. So a few decades later, we get cognitivism, which was a huge shift. It turned the focus inward to things like memory and problem solving. After that came constructivism, this idea that we're like builders, piecing together new knowledge with what we already know. And that brings us to today, with connectivism, which is all about learning in this crazy digital world through networks and all our online connections. You can see how each idea built on the last.
And if we zoom in on behaviorism, you see some big names who laid the groundwork. I mean, you can trace it all the way back to Aristotle and his ideas about associating things. Then you get Thorndike, who really zeroed in on rewards. And of course, there's Pavlov and his dogs, everyone knows that one, linking a bell to food. And Skinner took it even further, showing how reinforcing certain actions could shape behavior over time.
But here's the really big takeaway from that history lesson. It was that huge shift with the cognitive approach. We went from only looking at outside behavior to finally asking, wait, what's going on inside our minds? It was this huge realization that you can't possibly understand learning if you ignore things like motivation, what we believe, and how we feel. Okay, so that's the history, but what does it all mean now? Let's bring it into the present day and see how all this psychology actually shows up in a modern classroom. And it's important to be clear on this point. General psychology is huge, right? It studies everything about the mind. But educational psychology is different. It's an applied science. It takes all that broad knowledge and focuses it like a laser beam on one specific area, making teaching and learning better, right there in the classroom.
And it looks at the whole shebang, not just one piece. It considers the learner, their individual strengths and weaknesses. It looks at the learning process itself, how memory actually works. It even looks at the learning situation, the classroom, the social dynamics. And of course, it focuses on the teacher and what they're doing. It's all part of one big connected system.
Really, if you boil it all down to one sentence, it's this. The main goal is to help teachers help their students. That's it. It's a science built to empower people. So what's the result of all this thinking?
Well, one of the biggest things is the move toward child-centered education. We're finally getting away from that old one-size-fits-all model where everyone just sits and listens. Now it's all about tailoring teaching to the individual kid. It's learning through activities and projects. It's making sure lessons are right for their age. It's giving kids choices. It's about seeing them as a whole person. Thinking, feeling, social skills, all of it, not just a score on a test.
Okay, so we've covered a lot, but why does any of this actually matter? I mean, for you, whether you're a teacher, a student, or just, a curious person? Here's why. Understanding how we learn is a superpower. Seriously. It helps us become better students, it helps us become better teachers, and maybe most importantly, it makes us better lifelong learners. It's like having the user manual for your own brain.
So let's circle all the way back to the beginning. Remember that memory I asked you to think about? Well, now that you know a little bit more about the science of how you learn, what are you going to go master next?